Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Weapons and Stuff 93's channel. I am not him, but he is on the screen. I am instead Botstowo. I run a small YouTube channel about like respiratory protection, and every now and again I'll post like a meme or some other sort of militaria. But mostly I just talk about gas masks.
Alright, cool. And what I'll do is I think I might have to click my screen at the bottom. Yeah, I will. I'll do that when you're talking, when I'm talking, just because otherwise it's not going to go to the right screen. So it's just going to be
Oh yeah.
one of them. So yeah, right. So we were going to talk about sort of weird, either like industrial masks or like civil protection masks, those sort of things that are just interesting and endearing or a bit crap. So the one I'll start off with, and annoyingly, I can't find my actual mask of this, although I've complained about it a lot on here, and I've already punted the box away. So it was this thing, which was a pewter gas mask, which was a Chinese company. Apparently they're kind of like a shell company, so they also have a thing where, like, even when the company went bust, they still technically kept making the same mask, just under a new brand name, so I don't know what that name is to look out for, but apparently yeah, you can still get these things, But I like how it's advanced brand new design, and ultra grey, ultra width field of vision. But basically this is just a panoramic mask that's wrong in every way. So the worst bits with it is the straps, as I've mentioned quite a few times on videos. They've got this weird buckle design, but they're kind of held in via friction. So rather than it being a strap you can undo and tighten over and over again, it will just be you're randomly tightening it or loosening it, and then the strap pings off because the little metal thing is literally just sitting on there. It's not held on by any sort of clip system. And the main other issue is it's like some sort of really soft latex, and it folds in on itself, so you can't wear it even with a PAPR system, even with a filter on your belt, even with a hose with like no weight to it whatsoever. As soon as this mask is on your face, it will start drooping down, and then combine that with the fact you can't tighten the straps very much, you will literally have something that keeps flying off your face or just falling off. So if you were using this for some sort of industrial job, it would end up killing you. So that's why it's one of my most hated masks. I'll switch the camera back to you.
That is just terrible, but I love it. I've got a soft spot for terrible Chinese masks myself. I've got a whole series about them on my channel, and I'm going to be doing more. But my first mask for today is this Soviet PR5. It is, well, an industrial respirator from the 50s. When I first saw this on eBay, I was like, oh, that's neat. I saw it was $5 too, so I was like, fuck it, I'll buy it. But I saw this flutter valve on the bottom, right? Like, that's just a normal flutter valve. I don't know how visible that is on the camera. Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, so I was like, okay. So these have got to be voice diaphragms, right? Like, oh, that'd be cool. These covers are just fitted on there with tension. You take it off. No, it's two more exhale valves.
So
but
I guess
they're
they
different.
Really wanted you to get the air to come out the mask, one way or another.
Yeah. So it's really silly. Like, otherwise it's just kind of like a normal half face mask. Well, other than, I'm gonna leave that off. Other than this, like, for some reason they've got a strap that just goes between the eyes. That is bizarre. Man, other than that, it's like a normal mask. But yeah, no, I was like wearing this for a while, and something I was noticing is that like the flutter valve would never actually inflate and release air, so it might be some sort of like overflow valve. You know what I mean? Like in case
like
these two valves,
things, like those fail, and then.
Yeah, like if these like fail, then your mask isn't going to break a seal, and this just opens instead, which is kind of overkill for like a half-face respirator for nuisance dusts.
Yeah, it seems very strange that they've done the dual system. So you've got like not one but two exhale valves plus the flutter valve. So you've then got another additional way of having air come out. But yeah, it's.
Oh yeah.
Because, I mean, the only thing I could guess with those is, I know, like, they would act, like, as a very poor voice diaphragm, because the French M51 has a valve a bit like that. And, like, that vibrates ever so slightly, but it's not going to be enough to actually hear somebody.
Oh yeah, no, I kind of, like, if that is the case, I doubt that was intentional, honestly. Like, it, yeah. I don't know. Let's see if I can actually Um, I could probably take it off the head, because there's one more weird thing. I've actually got it taped back here, because this top strap doesn't actually have a buckle. It might just be my example. Oh lord, let me... Oh, there we go. Hang on here. Let me get this off the head. Yeah, this 3-point head harness is just bizarre. But what's also strange is... Oh, that's probably not very visible. Oh, no, not at all. Oh, that's terrible. But yeah, no, the peripheral seal is actually sunken into the mask quite a bit. Like, it's in line with this, this here. Yeah, there's just, like, this massive, like, I guess, like, continuation of the facepiece rubber, despite that not even actually being, like, for a seal. I think, like, I think it's really just, like, to keep your chin in place.
I mean, the mask that kind of reminds me of is it the Hungarian 75M or whatever it's called. That has, or the M75, that has a similar system to that, where there's like a strap inside where your chin rests.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just, I guess it's to make your chin not go too far forwards into the mask. But that's like its entire purpose.
Yeah, I think it is just like a chin cup, but like a very strange design for a chin cup.
I mean, if it's Soviet from that time period, I'm guessing it might have been like they saw something they liked the design of and then they just copied bits from it without really knowing how all the bits worked.
Oh, yeah.
That tends to be how a lot of
Maybe.
Soviet engineering works at that period.
Yeah, I don't really know much about Soviet masks, honestly. I don't really collect them, and yeah, I'm not gonna put this back in the head. I'm just gonna leave this here. There we go. You get to look at it. Very nice. So like I don't really know the history of this, so it's just like another oddity.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm
like,
gonna make a video.
It's not even a thing necessarily of just Soviet masks. Like I said, there's definitely a thing with the Soviet Union where they did have this habit of kind of like stealing Western designs in a sense, even to the point where they'd copy stuff directly and not understand how it worked. I mean, my favourite one of those is where I think Stalin wanted them to copy a B-29 that America had. Was it emergency land in Manchuria or somewhere? And he told them to copy it exactly, so they copied the bullet holes in it and a camera that was just randomly inside the plane. So the actual Soviet copy of the B-29 came with bullet holes for the original model and like this random camera. And again, it's just because Stalin said to do it, so you did it.
What the fuck?
But yeah, it's just that good example of like, you know, somebody not really thinking why they're copying it, just because it's there. It must be a feature.
Lovely.
Right, now if I jump back to my screen and I show
Sure.
you... So yeah, I was going to go over the VistaVision, and I think this technically has a name when it was in some of the kits, like Puretha, or something like Puretha, something like that.
Puretha?
Something like that. And saying, this is kind of a cool mask, because like I said, for when it was built, this seems like a really good mask. It's just the kind of shame that Britain never decided to really, you know, look into one of these, like, either militarily early on, or, like, make different versions of this. Because, you know, like I was saying, if this had a more easy way of adapting it to regular filters, this has been quite a good mask. Now, I think this is probably meant to mostly be positive pressure, but actually the inside's quite interesting because it's an upwards turned little thing. But yeah, like I said, the reason I just find these interesting is because it seems like a lot of these were essentially World War II parts kits they were made from, in a sense. So obviously not the full-on mask. The actual bit there, I think, might be. As in, like, it's the same face piece that's been cut that would have been the, like, civilian duty respirator. I don't know if you can see that from that angle, but you can kind of see the shape of it.
It is reminiscent of those face blanks, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, because I think with a lot of them it was the Mark IV and, like, Mark V, essentially kits, and then they just, like, obviously had that filter attached to them and everything else. So again, I think this is one of those funny things where they basically said, we've got all these bits so we can now make them cheaper, and then sell them to industry. So they're quite cool, because I think in one of the old James Bond films, I'm not sure if it's Dr. No, there's a load of these in them. No, it's in Goldfinger, isn't it, when they attack Fort Knox? One of the guys, I think, has one of these on. But
oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, it's just one of those masks that if you watch a lot of old, like, 50s and 60s films, you'll probably see them turn up as, like, a sci-fi looking thing. It's just, again, it's a mask I think is quite cool for when it was around. And like I was saying earlier, it's a shame Steve Gorman died off, because they did make cool stuff. It's just a shame that the last things they made were like government contracts that didn't have any reason to exist. I'll cut back to your camera again.
Oh, sure. Yeah, what I've set up here is one of my favorite masks in my collection. It is the Dupor #1 miniature respirator. I've also got the Covers Nod and Shake goggles on there. I should mention that Dupor is a product line from the company Harvey S. Cover Co. I've got a whole series on them on my channel, even a video where I go into much more depth on this mask. So something to note is that the mask is not this entire unit. It is just this nose piece, right? So if I take the goggles off, that's the mask. It's got these...
That weirdly reminds me of one of the like red nose things we used to have over here, like a charity thing, where like people put money, put those on their nose for like one day of the year. There's like a thing for raising money for like disabled kids or whatever it was. It like looks like that, but just not a bright color.
Yeah, I always call these clown noses because they're just fucking silly. Yeah, how you actually adjust the ear loops to your size is just by tying knots in the cord. Yeah, so, that's pretty much that. Also, I just realized there's water dripping down my mannequin head's face, and if you're wondering why that is, it's because the Nod and Shake goggles, they get that name because you pour water into them, and then when they fog, which is really quickly because there's fucking water in your goggles, you just shake your head violently, and it clears the fogging for a few seconds. They are really terrible.
Yeah, it sounds like it's less practical than just having goggles with no water in that just make a good seal to your face. They probably take longer.
They are! These are just really bad in every way. Yeah, and, oh yeah, so I should mention the packaging for this, right? It is just this tiny little box, and it's probably not readable on the video because my webcam has terrible quality. My usual videos I film in 4K HD, I just had to use my webcam for this. Yeah, no, it actually advertises as being... like, you can eat, smoke, and I believe sleep, it says on there. Yeah, it says you can sleep, eat, and smoke while wearing this mask. Which completely nullifies the point.
Yeah.
Especially since these are marketed as being a lightweight competitor to the other, like, industrial respirators of, like, the late 30s to, like, 40s. And I think they were even selling these into the 50s, which is fucking wild.
Yeah, because it's like, looking at that, if it's not covering your mouth, it's like you'd have to permanently remember to only be breathing through your nose, or else you're still going to get, like, horrible dusts down you. But then I guess then you can't advertise it as being one you can eat and smoke while you're wearing it.
Yep. But you can actually also unthread the filter, which is just like 9 square inches of felt, and expose, you know, the threads, and there on the bottom you've got your exhale valve. This thing... oh yeah, and you can also adjust it to your nose shape by squeezing on this wire there. Overall, it is really ridiculous, and I love it.
Yeah, it's just, why does it exist kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's funny, at the time, there was a US government office called the Bureau of Mines, and they would have to go and, like, approve your mask. Most of HS Cover Co.'s masks never got Bureau of Mines approvals, which is really funny. And also, these are very, very rare, so it's safe to say they didn't fucking sell well.
I mean, in some ways, I suppose that's a good thing, that people weren't wearing them thinking they'd be protected and then being exposed to whatever. But yeah, that kind of reminds me a bit of all the radioactive quackery stuff that you had in, like, the 20s, where there was, like, no legal requirements to actually, make proper claims about what your radioactive product did. So that's when you had all the people, like, saying, oh, drink this radium water because it will make you feel good. And obviously it just killed you. But
yeah, time to go in the sauna with uranium.
Yeah, like the radium salt type ones as well. But the thing that I just find funny about that as a side note was apparently the reason that they changed the rules on that wasn't because of people dying, it was because of the fact that basically the products weren't doing what they were advertised to do, and therefore people felt ripped off. So it wasn't the fact that it would kill you, it was just literally the fact that like people were saying, I expected this to, you know, like make me like feel more energetic, and it didn't, or like stuff like that. So
that's incredible. Holy shit.
Yeah, so it was like back in like the 1920s or 30s when they brought these laws in, it wasn't due to the fact that it was killing people, it was because people felt ripped off that like it was killing them as a byproduct, not actually doing the advertised features, which again is just like funny capitalism sort of stuff. Right, if I then show my
I would actually like one last note on this. HS Cover Co. is like such a shitty company. They like never made anything good. Not a single good thing was made by that company. But somehow they managed to survive from 1894 to 2004, making shitty respirators. And it's my personal theory that the only reason why that is because they sucked so fucking bad. Like, what was happening, like the main reason that industrial like mask companies were going out of business, from what I've seen, is like bigger companies would get intimidated and fucking buy them out. That didn't happen to HS Cover Co. until like they tried expanding in like the 90s, and then like Baku Dalas, which later became Spirion, bought them out. And then Honeywell bought out Spirion like a decade later.
That kind of reminds me of, you know, those companies where they have the monopoly laws, but they end up like keeping a much smaller company afloat, because if they actually go under, then they don't have to pay more money anyway because of like the monopoly laws that are around. So you can keep somebody around that's a smaller, useless company, just so in theory you're not the only company on the market selling a certain product.
Yeah, no, it is incredible that the fact that these guys sucked shit was the only reason that they continued being around for 110 years.
Yeah, it's just sad to think, especially when you think of the companies that made good masks that didn't last all that long, and then, the clown thing has outlasted you. Alright, I'll show my C7s now. So, I've shown these before on videos, but these are British C7 respirators, which I find funny just because they're the one from the Cold War of Britain deciding they needed a new civil defence mask, only within like 5 years or something of them going into production, deciding that actually they're a waste of money because everybody's going to die in like nuclear hellfire. So actually what we're going to do is just recall all the masks and then give you like a tiny bit of money if you send your mask back. So until we go into the stuff where recently they've actually turned up in several government industries because the government was that cheap, most of the time when people still had one of these laying around, it was just because they didn't realise they owned one, like, you know, it was in their attic or something, or a shed, and then they've randomly, like, one of their relatives has randomly found it, like, in the modern day, and then decided to put on eBay. So one of them I've got here is an Avon 1. I think this one is the Avon 1. You won't be able to read it very well, but that's the Avon 1. And this, I think, is Leyland and Birmingham Rubber, or one of those similar companies. So again, it was a mask where the design was handed out to several rubber companies to make, similar to like the World War II civilian respirators. But then what ended up happening was they decided that the threat of nuclear war meant people wouldn't survive anyway, so why bother? But then it turns out that the government actually was so cheap, this is the bit I find the funniest, that they literally kept these in service for some of their own like government health and safety institute type things. So again, the funny one is, I think it's on Imperial War Museum or one of the science museums in the UK. You can find a picture of one of these where they've taped an S10 filter to it, the PS10 filter, whatever it's called. It's just literally taped onto it instead of like the old asbestos filter. They've just taped on a modern filter, and it's, again, this is literally like an item I think they said was from like about the year 2000 in their archive. So going for that, you're like, so when they put all these laws in for like, you know, companies dealing with like hazardous waste and all that, they could dictate, you know, all these things to other companies, but when the government's issuing you a mask for like, you know, a public sector job, they can literally give you like a 50s mask with a modern filter taped to it and say that's good enough.
Incredible.
So yeah, that's just the reason I find these more funny than anything. Is just because of the fact these might still be being used by somebody somewhere, being told no, it's a good enough mask. You know, it's like that. What we've got, whatever at home, kind of meme. Like with the S10
Yeah.
on it, we've got an S10 at home or at work, and it's just this thing. So that's why I find them funny, just because the initial history behind them's interesting, but more just the fact that they still might be being used somewhere. Right, let me go back to your camera.
They look like somebody tried drawing a gas mask from memory, and not like somebody who like knows how gas masks work. This is like if like, you know, like Aunt Susan on Etsy drew a gas mask and was like, okay, now I'm gonna sell this as a sticker, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it reminds me, actually, saying that, a bit of like one of those clip art old pictures of a gas mask, although I think that one...
Oh, yeah!
The clip art one looks more like that Swedish one I've got somewhere in this room, but that was just like, again, based on a British civilian respirator, but slightly better quality. But again,
yeah, I know exactly what
piece
of
just a
clip
big
art you're
filter where
talking
the
about.
mouth is, yeah, and then just like two eyepiece kind of things, but yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, what's this mask then?
This is another HS Cover Co. masterpiece. It is the... well, it's got two names, and that's part of why it's so funny. Its first name was Cover's New Gas Mask, or Cover's Gas Mask. And its second name was the Nod and Shake Smoke Mask, right? Named after the goggles. And it seems to me, the reason why they changed the name was to avoid false advertising suits, which is insane. You see, because, like, essentially what this is a Covers automatic respirator, which is one of these. It's essentially this, but half face. But with a pair of Nod and Shake goggles literally riveted and bolted to it. Well, not riveted, just bolted to it.
Yeah, that they weren't on separately.
Yeah, they're completely separate, except for these two elastic straps that are on the side, and also, like, they are, again, bolted in the back of the head harness. So it is a sponge respirator, so for the filter, it's literally just a sponge. And, like, in my Covers automatic respirator, you can see it a little bit better on the inside. And so how this would work is if you're working with, like, dusts, you could just, like, dip it in water, and that would, like, do the trick to an extent. And if you were working with, like, poisonous gases, you would dip the sponge in neutralizing chemicals, which isn't safe.
Yeah,
like,
I can
at
imagine
all.
some of the actual neutralizing chemicals as well are just quite as nasty as if you're like huffing them right in front of your face.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's like really bad. So what's especially funny about this is the Covers automatic respirator. These were put on the market in 1901. These were put on the market in 22 or 23 after the Nod and Shake goggles, which were put on the market in 22. And they continued selling these fucking things into the 40s, despite, like, increasing, like, federal safety regulations, meaning that these were probably illegal to use at firms. Like, this was in the age of, like, Bureau of Mines regulations. Let me actually see if I can grab, like, another respirator from the time. I'm gonna take my headset off, so we'll cut this part out. Alright, I'm back. Sorry
Okay,
about
cool.
that.
That's all right.
So the Nod and Shake smoke mask was competing against stuff like the Mine Safety Appliances Comfo respirator, which is a very good mask, and they still make, like, well, very upgraded Comfos to this day. On top of that, it was also competing with, you know, the Dust Foe, which you can't really see because it's black and the lighting is bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like you've got a proper filter pad at least at the bottom of that one. From what I can
Oh
see.
yeah, no, like it's like these things have like real, like these are felt filters, you know. So it's like this wet sponge was competing against like actual masks. And what's worse is I've found a document saying that like some government agencies were like these were like state level like wildlife agencies, like I think it was like California National Park Service, something like that. They were testing them to see if they wanted to use them
Yeah, so
in the 40s.
So yeah, you'd be some poor guy, and they're like, "Oh, try this on, see if you die or not." Basically.
Yeah, try this on and then go into a forest fire.
Yeah, it does not look like an actual proper mask. Again, like I said, the closest thing I can think to those these days, like some of those really cheap Chinese ones, going back to that, where they like don't have really an effective filter medium in them. It's just literally, oh, we've put some sort of cloth in, the actual thing, so therefore you have a filter.
Yeah, and it's like, it's understandable because like Harvey S. Cover, the guy who designed this, he was like, he started designing gas masks in the 1890s. Well, respirators really, but like, they could be used against like chemicals, and for the time they were, well, good. But this guy continued using 1800s design logic to design like gas masks after the Great War and even into World War II. And then even after that, like HS Cover died in like the 60s, and like he said like he was doing his quote best designs after he hit like 65, which is like, no, he was not.
Yeah, it makes me think almost in a way as like if you had a motor car where somebody kept doing the same design without any of like the good safety features from a modern one, like up to modern day, where you'd have some sort of old jalopy where you just get crushed to death in it because there's no.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I can definitely see why. Yeah, in like the late 1800s, that might have been an acceptable design, especially for just lowering the risk of inhalation or something. But then, yeah, going into the 50s, like, no.
No, it's like, and then like you get into like the 60s. Where is my? This is the Dupor number 4. It's sort of just a triangle. You got your felt filters. They at least tried to modernize, but it didn't really work because like this doesn't actually seal, because it's got these two. Well, it's got vertical what do you call it? Symmetry. So it's got these, you can't see it because of the cloth that's on it, but it's got like these big cutouts for the nose, both on the top and on the bottom of the mask. So while you're wearing it, there's a giant hole on your chin that just lets in unfiltered air.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a good idea. But I'm assuming it's
It's
like,
not.
they did the thing of like, oh, we can have it both ways up without realising that the face isn't shaped like that.
Yep.
So yeah, rather than a triangle, they've done like a diamond shape, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's fucking insane, man.
Yeah, so that was quite interesting, seeing all these sort of abominations.
Yeah.
We're saying, well, some of the masks obviously work to an extent, but yeah, it's just, I think the thing is quite funny when people don't realise, just how good some of the modern masks are when you compare them to older things, or like equivalents.
Oh yeah. But let's not forget the biggest fucking abomination, right?
You've got a GSR. I mean, at least that actually has a filter on it, unlike a bit of sponge.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's not a sponge respirator, and honestly, I really like the way the Bayonet ports are designed on this
Yeah,
one.
I prefer it to the M50 actually. When I was playing about with M50 before, it's just a shame that the filters are so bulky and like get in the way of like shouldering a rifle.
Yeah, I don't know. GSR versus M50. I want to do a video on that, but I don't have an M50. All I've got is an XM50. So it's like I don't want to rate a mask based on a prototype from like 5 years before it was finalized. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the only problem I really had with the M50 when I actually had one was, and again I know it was an easy thing to fix, but finding the spare parts was hard, was the little rubber, not washers, I'm trying to think of things like the seals on them.
Oh,
which
the
don't seal
sealers, I guess?
Yeah, where they're meant to seal when you take the filter off, but they didn't with
Yeah.
the older ones. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was the replacement part that they then changed.
Something I've noticed is that they fall off, like at least on my XM50, they fall off real easily because they're just
mine did as
tension
well,
fit on
yeah.
a peg.
And I think,
Like-
yeah, that was the difference with like the later ones, that they put much stronger rubber on with much more elasticity to it, so it just snapped back into place.
Yeah, hang
Again,
on,
the
I'm
GSR
grabbing my
filter
X-
design is definitely better in that regard, that it's actually like a locking sort of lug kind of design rather than a...
Yeah, like here's the XM50. I really don't... These filters don't provide a lot of feedback when you like actually bayonet them into place. And sometimes they get stuck. But yeah, no, like there's the sealer thing. You can just like pull that off because it's literally just a peg.
Yeah.
Yeah, so mine is actually missing one of those because it just falls off real easy.
But yeah, so it's where they both came up with a design, and annoyingly there wasn't one master the best bits of both on it. They each went down sort of a design route that had problems. Which... But anyway, I guess we'll have to wrap the video up here and I'll get round to editing.
Oh yeah.
But thanks for doing it, and it's quite a cool thing to do.
Thanks for having me on the channel.
That's alright, and I'll put a link to your channel in this video when it's up and edited, but I don't know if I'll get a chance to do that tonight. I might have to do that tomorrow. But...
Awesome.
But
yeah,
cool.
I will definitely be in the comments too, you know.
Alright, cool, yeah. Right, let me stop this and hope it stops recording properly.